Hello dear learners, welcome again. In this video I am going to discuss agricultural pricing policy and minimum support price. What is minimum support price, how it is different from procurement price and issue price, and when this minimum support price was started in India, what are the objectives of announcing minimum support price. So if you find this video useful, please like it, and if you have not subscribed my channel yet, please subscribe it. So let us start with the topic pricing policy and minimum support price. Pricing policy, the policy of the government for agriculture produce seeks to ensure two important things. First, it tries to give remunerative prices to farmers or growers for their produce in order to encourage higher investment and production. The second objective is to safeguard the interest of consumers by making available food supplies at reasonable prices. So the objective of pricing policy, agricultural pricing policies are two, that is remunerative prices for the farmers and supplying the food at reasonable prices to the customers or to the people. What is minimum support price? Minimum support price is the price at which government purchases crops from the farmers. Whatever may be the price for the crops in the market, government purchases at the announced MSP price from the farmers. So minimum support price is an important part of India's agricultural price policy. It supports the farmers. In fact, the objectives, these are some of the important objectives of minimum support price. Minimum support price tries to assure a remunerative price, as I said, and a relatively stable price environment for the farmers by inducing them to increase production and thereby augmenting the availability of food grains in the economy. So it tries to give fair price to the farmers so that farmers should increase the production and the availability of food grains can be increased in the economy. So this is the first objective. The second objective is to improve economic access of food to the people. When there is abundance of food because of growing more food grains by the farmers for the good prices, so the food availability will increase and access of food to the people also increase. So this is the second objective of minimum support price. Third objective is to evolve a production pattern of crops, different crops, which is in line with overall needs of the economy. See, if the economy needs more of wheat, more of rice, or more of oil seeds, more of pulses, what is needed? These MSP guides the production pattern, cropping pattern in the economy. By government, by announcing a certain price, guides the farmers to produce a certain amount of production of a particular crops. So these three are the important objectives of minimum support price. In short, you can say MSP helps to incentivize the farmers and thus ensure adequate food grain production, and it gives sufficient remuneration to the farmers, provides food grain supply to buffer stocks of the government, and supports the food security program run by the government, and it is distributed under PDS system, that is public distribution system, and other such programs. So this is the basic objective of MSP announced by the government. Next is procurement price. There is a price called procurement price. It is a price at which government purchases the crop after harvesting. And the main difference between procurement price and MSP is that MSP is announced or declared before sowing season, before sowing of seeds, while procurement price is declared after the harvesting of crops. So this is the basic difference. In fact, now after 1968-69, this announcement of procurement price is dropped and MSP is considered as procurement price. And there is one more price called issue price. The price at which procured and buffer stock food grains are provided through PDS is called an issue price. In other words, you can say the price at which FCI, that is Food Corporation of India, sells the food grain for PDS consumption is known as issue price. So we have this MSP, procurement price and issue price as a concept prices. Three concept prices are there. Now the agriculture, who decides this MSP and procurement price or issue price? This is decided by Agricultural Prices Commission. The minimum support prices are announced by the Government of India at the beginning of the sowing season, as I said, for certain crops on the basis of recommendations of Commission for Agricultural Costs and Prices. In fact, this agricultural costs and prices, CACP, earlier it was known by this name, Agricultural Prices Commission, which was established in 1965. Later on it was renamed as this agriculture costs and prices, that CACP, Commission for Agriculture Costs and Prices, in 1985. The first commission, Agricultural Prices Commission, was headed by Professor M.S. Dantwala. And there is one more thing, that is FCI, that is Food Corporation of India, which maintains the buffer stock. It was established under the FCI Act 1964. And the objective of this FCI, creation of FCI, was safeguarding the interest of poor farmers and distributing food grains across the country and maintaining sustainable level of food grains as buffer stock in the economy, right? To avoid any uncertainty if there is drought or flood, anything. So this FCI provides food grains which are there in the buffer stock. Now the question is how this minimum support price is decided by CACP, that Commission for Agriculture Costs and Prices, how it decides. There are several factors on which this minimum support price depends. Number one is cost of production. In fact, CACP find out the cost of production of each and every crop, or region wise, district wise, state wise breakup. It tries to find out what is the cost of production of each different crops in the economy. This is first thing. Second thing is considered as changes in the input prices. How input prices, the inputs which are used for the production of crops are used, and how their prices are changing, that is considered. Then we have input and output price parity, how the input and output prices are compared. The comparison is made. What is the ratio of input and output prices? That comparison is made, and then MSP is decided. Then next factor considered is trends in the market prices, how market prices of each crops are trending and moving in the market. That is taken into account before deciding MSP. The next point, next factor is demand and supply factors. This is very important point, that how the demand and supply of each and every crops are moving. What is the demand of wheat, demand of paddy, demand of pulses, and similarly what are their supplies. So that comparison is also made before deciding MSP by CACP. Next factor is intercrop parity. That intercrop comparison is made, intercrop price comparison is made, like wheat price, paddy price, pulses price. That intercrop price comparison is also made. Their ratios are calculated before deciding the minimum support price. Next comes the effect of MSP on industrial cost structure. In fact, MSP can also influence the industrial cost, as there are several products, which are used by the workers, right? If workers are getting less wages and salaries, they may demand more wages and salary if the food grain prices go up. This is one thing. Other thing is that there are several industries which are agro-based industries, and agriculture products are the inputs of those those industries. So that way also industrial costs are affected. In fact, the food grain prices affect the cost of living of each and every area, so that is also taken into account, that effect on cost of living. Next comes effect on general price level, how food grain prices in totality affect the general price level in the economy, because food grain is one of the significant component in the basket of the general price level. So the MSP impact that general price level that way. So CACP considered the effect of MSP declaration on the general price level as well. Next is international price situation is also considered before announcing the MSP. Then parity between prices paid and prices received by the farmers, how this comparison is made, how the farmers are buying the commodities, because farmer as a consumer and farmer as a producer, that parity, that comparison is made. And next is effect on issue prices and implications for subsidy. So MSP and the issue prices, that differential is also taken into account. After all, MSP is announced, and at that rate the buffer stock is created, and then the buffer stock is distributed through PDS and other such programs, so that issue price will also be affected with this MSP. So their implication is also considered before deciding the MSP. So these are the factors on which determination of minimum support price depends. Now the cost concepts which are used for calculating MSP or minimum support price. There are several cost concepts decided by or taken into account by the Commission for Agriculture Costs and Prices. What are those cost concepts? The number one is cost A2. These are the costs the farmers actually pays out of his or her pocket for buying various inputs, that seeds, fertilizers, pesticides, hired labor or hired machinery or leased in land. Whatever actual payment is made by the farmers, that is taken into account in this cost. The second cost concept is cost A2 plus FL, that is family labor. Besides this A2, family labor cost, imputed cost is also taken into account in this cost A2. Then third concept is cost C2. This is comprehensive cost. It includes all the imputed costs of family labor plus imputed rent of owned land, imputed interest on owned capital, means besides it includes everything. This is most comprehensive cost concept which should be considered as the experts suggest. In fact, there is a National Commission on Farmers headed by M.S.Swaminathan recommended that the 50% margin over C2 as MSP. The MSP should be fixed at over and above C2 50%. So this was the demand of farmers and farmers unions as well. So as if you look at the situation in our country, in India, in 2014 the union government has promised to offer 50% margin over C2 as demanded by the farmers and as suggested by the commission, but it was never implemented. Recently, Ministry has announced that MSP will be in lines with the earlier announcement on Rabi crops. But for Rabi crop, the government is using 50% margin of cost A2 or maybe cost A2 plus FL. But by this, the MSPs given by the government is still lower than cost C2, which is the comprehensive cost concept suggested by the commission, suggested by M.S. Swaminathan and demanded by the farmers. The agricultural ministry or finance ministry claims that only the present administration or the present government offers 50% margin cost A2 plus FL level, but the fact is, even in financial year 13-14, before that, the MSPs for all Rabi crops were way above 50% over cost A2 plus FL. So this claim is also nullified. So that way, this is the situation in our country as MSP, how MSP is calculated. Then now, what are the different crops which are included under MSP? There are 23 crops, 22 plus this sugarcane, for which fair and remunerative price FRP is announced. So mandated crops, there are 14 Kharif crops and 6 Rabi crops. Then there are several, the complete list. Cereals, under cereals we have 7 crops: paddy, wheat, barley, etc. Then under pulses there are 5, that gram, arhar, tur, moong and other pulses. Then under oil seeds there are 8 oil seeds. Then raw cotton, raw jute, copra, dehusked coconut, sugarcane, for which FRP is announced. Then VAFC, tobacco. So these are the crops for which MSP is announced. For 22 MSP is announced, and for sugarcane FRP is announced. So these are the crops which are covered under MSP or minimum support price. Now as we know that this MSP has certain merits, and this controls price volatility in the market. It reduces the farmers' debt burden, and it increases income of farmers. It eliminates middlemen. So besides having these merits, there are certain limitations of minimum support price. And what are those limitations? First limitation is inflation itself. In fact, the higher returns due to increased MSP increase the cash flow in the economy, and this may again lead to increase in prices of food grains, thus affecting poor farmers the most. In fact, this is for the support of farmers. In fact, because of increase in food grain prices, because of MSP, it may result into inflation and ultimately affecting the poor farmers itself. So this is the first limitation. Second limitation is low coverage of MSP. In fact, effectiveness of government procurement is more effective in few states like Punjab, Haryana, Andhra Pradesh, and although government announces MSP for 23 crops, but effectively procures only wheat and rice, and that means it is not implemented for properly for other crops. So thus only a handful of farmers are able to have benefited from this MSP scheme or MSP price. Then the third limitation is degrading of soil and fertility. Increase in MSP leads to excessive sowing of a particular crop, which reduces prices obtained by it. So, for example, due to intensive growing of crops like paddy and wheat, the lands in Haryana and Punjab are becoming infertile due to salination of soil, and land degradation affects farmers directly. Then next limitation is lack of private investment. Due to sure return under MSP, farmers rely more on political pressure to remove their problems, and instead of adopting market mechanism, and all these things keeps private investment away from this agriculture sector. So this is the limitation. Then last limitation is lack of awareness among small and marginal farmers. This small and marginal farmers, majority of them sell their crops to the village moneylenders or middlemen, and they are unable to sell their produce to the government at the MSP rate. So ultimately the benefit is not reaped by the small and marginal farmers. So this is all about the limitations of minimum support price, or this is how this idea of agriculture pricing under MSP was designed to benefit the farmers. Okay, so thank you so much. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to give your comments and feedback.